Hello, 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 and welcome back. Much like Sam, we are here confused, possibly afraid, maybe a little happy to see Fragile. Who knows? But you know what? We are going to talk about some crazy things today. We're kind of wrapping up on the Neil stuff. We are going to talk about the timeline between Neil, Lucy, and Sam. We are going to touch on crabs and the beach, as well as Tarman, Red Samurai, and APAC and APAS, and maybe a little bit on the spoiler for Death Stranding's rating. And yeah, let's get into it. Now, Neil and Lucy appear to know each other, and I believe that we can confirm that they know each other as kids. Now, this is your reminder that this video is not going to be spoiler free. It's going to include some information on gameplay footage, previews, and maybe some information on characters. None of it's going to be leaks. It'll all be official released information. So, no fears there. But if you are avoiding any and all, then I suppose that you may want to run from this video. So Neil and Lucy appear to have known each other as children. Neil says to Lucy that she is the girl, as if he knew her but didn't know her well, or didn't know her in a capacity that he was allowed to know her name. They have matching cancer brandings, and if they were to hold hands, the brands would match up. So it's almost as if they had something go through their hand, or he had something on the back of his hand and she touched it. It does seem kind of funny that they would match up that way, but when you put two hands on top of each other, one Twitter user kind of showed that does kind of make a crab looking symbol. It also sort of makes the cancer symbol, so that is interesting, holding hands as a way to bridge a gap. Now, the other thing about crabs is we see them all the time. In Death Stranding 1, we constantly see crabs. We see crabs whenever the beach is close. And the thing about crabs is that they feature pretty heavily in the trailer. We have the crab nebula in one of the scenes. We have a crab on the president's blazer. Unfortunately, branding is kind of a thing that we do to animals, and it would not surprise me if we find out that these two were being kept somewhere like animals, or treated like animals, captured, were being abused in some way. And I'm actually thinking that it could be the APAC president's company that did this to them. Bridges has long been the bad guy, but I don't think they're the only bad guy. I do not trust APAC or APAS, which is basically sort of like a software from APAC. I guess we could say it's not necessarily its own company. I think of it kind of like how Amazon has, Amazon Prime or the drones, that they're sort of all connected. In this portion, we're going to talk about APAC and APAS and how they relate. Now, the thing about the president is we don't have it confirmed. So this is definitely theory on my part. It wasn't confirmed in any of the stuff that I watched, but I haven't watched any more gameplay footage since kind of that first week. So it could have come out. Maybe someone knows more than me. However, from my standpoint, the president has a crab pin. I don't see any reason that you would wear something that looks like the beach and not be related to the beach. As in, I don't think that crab is anyone's national pin or mascot or anything like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think a crab would be anything related to Australia. I don't think it would be related to Mexico. I definitely don't think it's related to the UCA. Now, of course, Bridges had the spider, and that had nothing to do with America. So it's totally possible that this theory is completely off base. What I am thinking is that we have the East Indian Trading Company logo sort of in the game. We basically have the chiral version of it. This is something that a lot of people have pointed out. I thought it was something different actually when I first looked at it, and a user, Andrew, who I was speaking to on Discord, had shown how the East Indian Trading Company's logo was just the kind of reflection or chiral version of the APAC logo. And I thought that was interesting because we already sort of have like, you know, the Bridges FedEx type of thing. You know, we have those commentaries in Death Stranding 1. The thing about the East Indian Trading Company is it sort of became a little bit of a not great thing. And so it's not exactly good. Now, I don't know a lot about it. My knowledge is very basic, but here's kind of what I know. The Death Stranding related part is that the East Indian Company, which would be APAC for us, did a lot for global trading. So basically, they kind of expanded all of these trade routes and got global trade going. Kind of like I assume APAC will have a pass and have the automatic portering system set up, and will probably be doing a lot for these countries and might even be seen as a positive thing. But in the real life, this came on the backs of slavery. They exploited people. They basically exploited African and Indian slaves, I'm pretty sure. And what I'm thinking when I see those logos, those brands on Lucy and Neil's hands, are that they have been used or exploited by APAC in some way. It's way worse than I knew about. Okay, so like 10 million people died. They had slaves. They didn't pay people. Like, they were awful. They were basically the very first, like, most evilest corporation ever. And they did it all to line their pockets. And APAC has anything to do with it being symbolic of the East Indian Trading Company, I think we can assume that Neil and Lucy were being used as slaves to further this trading or company that this guy has. So they sound like awful people. Wow, I read a whole bunch about it, and that's terrible. So if you don't know about that, I'll leave a link in this YouTube video. That's new to me, and that is why I love Kojima. He is always including real world references in his stuff. And it also said that this East Indian Company started wars in order to produce profits. So I do wonder, will that translate into the game? Will APAC be behind wars or death, something along those lines? Could they be behind why the beach is lined with all the bodies in the air? Really crazy stuff. And will they be the reason for these colossal titans? Let's talk about president real quick. I got a weird theory about the president that his brother perhaps could have been a twin. Maybe he is related to the OG president that was killed whenever Bridget was vice president. The reason I say that could be a possibility is we know twins are a thing in this game. We have lots of twins. If you didn't know, Spiritualist and Cosplayer, Lockne and Mama. I know there's probably another one that I'm forgetting about, but twins are a thing. Now, I think that the one that might not be accurate would be that the president with the crab pin is maybe twins or brothers with the original UCA president. That's one that I think could be crazy if that's true. Now, some people might say he would be dead. He'd be way too old. However, Bridget was also quite old, but very young looking for her age. And when they tested her, she was actually very young for her age. And they basically said that was because Amelie is on the beach. And so that connection was keeping Bridget from aging quickly or regularly. It was slowing down her aging process. So it's possible, Bridget was a 70-year-old woman and she looked about 50 when she died. That's kind of what they refer to it as in the interviews. And that could mean that this guy with the crab pin could be the brother of the president, and maybe he's out for revenge because Bridget had him murdered or he blew up or whatever. The other thing is that this could actually be the original president, and that would be really crazy too. Now, we know in 2019 this is kind of based around Donald Trump being president because that was kind of what was going on when this game was first made. But there's no reason that he couldn't just sort of another face on, they couldn't use his likeness anyway. So it's totally possible that this president with the crab pin might have been the original UCA president, and maybe he faked his own death. Maybe he did that void out, much like Amelie faked void outs, in order for him to get to the beach, or maybe that experiment was a way to cross over to the beach. There's a lot of conjecture, absolutely no proof, but it wouldn't surprise me if we find out he has some weird connection to all that. Now, what I do want to point out is the president has kind of like a same weird chiral not symmetry as Mama and Lockne. Now, Mama and Lockne were conjoined twins, and they both wear one earring apiece, and when they merged their souls back together, they each have one of the colors of their original eyes. Left is, I think, blue, and right is green. And all that means for us is that typically when we see someone who is not symmetrical, it either means that they are special or that there's something kind of off or not okay with them. So I'm just looking at his earring and his pin and the fact that it makes him look like he's weighted differently visually. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's why I think he might be from the beach, because he would not be I don't know. There's something weird about him. So we'll figure it out when we get there. Let's talk about Tarman. Now, the thing about Tarman and Red Samurai that I hadn't quite put together yet is the fact that obviously Tarman's arm is completely, like, cleanly cut. It is a straight through, looks like it was solderized wound. It's obviously tar. So there's something a little odd about it. But let's just keep that in mind. When I started thinking about the new Woodkid album and the cover of the Woodkid album and how it had a mech on it that had Higgs's symbol, I started thinking about Red Samurai. The weird thing about Red Samurai is not just that he has a flaming sword that appears to cut through space and time, but the fact that he seems to be able to actually cut the strings that are attached to these mechs, creatures, whatever we want to call them, and appear to send them back to the beach. Now, my thing about Red Samurai is I'm not sure that he is a robot. I'm really confused on him. Or if he is a person or a baby or whatever. I have a lot of weird thoughts on him. But what I am going to say about Red Samurai is that he is a weird conglomerate of armors. He has the same shields, defensive shields, as Sam's APAC made defensive trike. He has the same Odrjek as Bridges. His sword seems to match the APAC designs. His outfit matches a little bit of Higgs's people. His shoulder pads have the same sensing chiral matter circles that Fragiles do. So there's a lot there, which to me just speaks to the fact that this tech is like a mixture of Bridges, UCA tech, and APAC tech, which I've noticed like a lot of things say made in the UCA on them in this game, as well as APAC. So it's like, two companies, which that worries me because we don't know who's behind Drawbridge. And, we know Charlie probably is now, but who is Charlie? We don't know. Now, here is the photo of the mech that I think is Higgs's mech. The reason I bring this up is we now have two pretty large, decked out defensive mechs. One of them has Higgs's logo. One of them more appears to be like the Apex, or at least an adversary of Higgs in this shot, even though it's weird that it laughs like a baby. The other thing is Tarman is said to have a very tragic backstory. I think his kid died. We see a guy on a boat with him at some point in the trailer. I think that's going to be his kid. I think his kid is going to get hurt somehow and pass away. Now, we know that the ship that Tarman pilots can go through the tar currents. Therefore, we know that he can basically travel back and forth. We know from gameplay previews, not really why or anything, but we do know his hand is on the beach, and that's why he can travel back and forth, which is great to know because we were right about that theory. However, I had originally theorized that the cat ate his hand, and that was why I thought maybe the cat was around. it does not sound like that. It sounds like perhaps Red Samurai cut his hand off. And so we know that those kids have, or Neil and Lucy have, brands on their hands. The way it looks is almost like maybe Lucy grabbed Neil's hand, or he was like dragging her along, because the marks look like they are in the same spot if someone's hand was laid over one another. And I'm wondering, was Tarman trying to save someone, or was he involved with that trading company at one point, and that's why he has his ship? And did he lose his hand because he left? Did that hand have a crab brand on it? Does that brand allow them to find you? Is it going to be something like that? But I think we will find out that Red Samurai chopped Tarman's hand off. Thank you for watching, and that is kind of the end of this segment. That was really what I wanted to get to about the branding and APAC and APAS and some of the weirder theories I have about the president. Feel free to drop any comments down below. I'm totally happy to hear them, and it's good to have people to talk to about it. So tonight is the premiere of the gameplay footage, and I hope to look at it, maybe put something out a little bit later and enjoy it with you guys. So have a great night, and I will see you guys in the next video.